Welcome to Keiretsu Forum Presents. My name is Randy Williams. I'm a proud member of Keiretsu Forum, also the founder and CEO. We've been taping now for the last 2 years, and I think when I introduced this show 2 years ago, we're 40 chapters. We're fortunate to be 51 locations throughout the world. We wanted to create this show to inspire, to educate you, the audience, about angel investing. Today we have Sophie Alcorn of Alcorn Immigration Law, and she's going to be talking about Silicon Valley immigration opportunities. But first, so we can gauge and frame this right, welcome.
Thank you very much, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here.
And who is our target audience today? And then we're going to let you brag a little bit about your great background.
Okay, thank you. So my team and I focus on helping highly motivated foreigners who are investors and entrepreneurs so that they can get visas and green cards to live in the United States.
Okay, before the show started, I was picking on Sophie because she's so busy. Great firm. Husband works for Google. We're talking about balance of Silicon Valley. Balance throughout the world. It's real busy. You are so busy. But how do you balance all the things you're doing and also remain a great mother?
Thank you. It's really hard. It's a daily struggle. I have so many balls in the air, but I think the key is that I'm doing what I love.
Right.
I was actually a stay-at-home mom for 4 years before I founded Alcorn Immigration Law, and just in over the last 2 years, now we have a team of 10 in Mountain View, and I find that growing a law firm from nothing to something is actually easier than being a stay-at-home mom to 2 little kids.
Well, I know you have balance. We'll get you home to your kids sometime this evening. But what qualifies you to talk about this subject? So tell us a little bit about your background, and then also let's go into exactly what the topic is.
Absolutely. So I'm the product of an immigration lawyer and an immigrant. My mom is from Germany, and my dad was her immigration lawyer in LA, and that's how they met. And I grew up admiring my dad and his work very deeply. And he has since passed away 2 years ago. But when I attended Stanford and studied international relations, I just felt this pull towards international and meeting people from different cultures and different backgrounds. And I actually fought law school and the idea of it being an immigration lawyer for a long time because I didn't want to do it just because I was copying my dad. I worked for him for a few years at his practice in Irvine, learned a lot. He was a wonderful mentor, and then decided to stay home when I had my kids. And since he passed away, it was a huge loss for me. But it has given me the opportunity to reevaluate what it is that I want to do and why. And I'm truly passionate about practicing this type of law. It's amazing to really affect people's lives in such a deep way.
Well, here in the Valley and other parts of the world, we care deeply about expertise. We care deeply about, obviously, if the person, a woman or man, can execute and do the job. Is there any storm clouds that people around the world that are coming to the Valley or traveling the United States should worry about? And is there any new rules in place? Are we trying to make it easier? Tell us what's going on. Tell us the landscape.
Well, first of all, who knows what will happen after the presidential election? I have no idea what will happen if we have a Republican in the White House. If there's a Democrat, comprehensive immigration reform has been proposed as one thing on the agenda. But even before we get to that, the EB5 Regional Center program is set to sunset at the end of this month, September of 2016. And so Congress has been very slow to pick this up and move forward with it. Probably the entire program will lapse for a few weeks or months while they scramble to renew it. And it's estimated that the minimum investment for regional centers will go up from $500,000 to $800,000 per investor. and that the minimum investment for establishing your own business that hires 10 U.S. workers will go from $1 million to $1.2 million.
So we hear some, or lack of clarification about EB-5. So historically it's been 500. Now it could be moving to 800 or more. And you have to create how many jobs and how much capital has to come into this entity. And I guess real estate's been a big proponent of this law.
Yes. There have been a ton of regional centers focused on real estate, which allow the investors to take a passive role with the money, and which also allow the 10 jobs for Americans to be created indirectly in the economy instead of the actual corporate entity hiring those 10 workers as employees.
Now, Sophie, if I was, for instance, in Shanghai and accumulated great wealth and want my kids to go to Stanford, even though I'm a bear, go Bears, and my uncle is president trustees at Stanford, so I have a lot of respect for Stanford. But is there anything they should be worrying about in regards to possibly say, gee, we want to definitely make some investments, and I think globally, I think the world's flat. I think there's great opportunities everywhere. It doesn't necessarily we should be the recipient of this capital, but should they worry about EB-5 programs? Can you point to a lot of great programs that are truly making money for Chinese, for example?
Yes. So the thing about EB-5 is that there has been a history of fraud that this program has been riddled with. And so it's so important to be exceedingly cautious, do a ton of due diligence, and just make sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed. The latest is that the Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating several regional centers for Ponzi schemes. It's scary, but there are reputable, strong regional centers out there, and I have seen my clients work well with them and feel safe and secure about their investments.
And that's not your particular job description channel. Your job description. One aspect.
One aspect.
You then will know about interesting projects. Okay.
Yeah, so since I'm not an investment advisor, investment broker, I can't recommend any, but I can tell my clients about those which have been successful in the past.
So let's talk about success. Perfect client for you historically has been whom?
So my perfect client would be a person in a foreign country who owns a company, and their dream is to move to the United States and start a company here. And the company here could either be a brand new startup or it could be a subsidiary of their foreign company. But there's a lot of things we can do for people who are coming to the United States to create jobs. And some of those options are much faster for green cards than EB-5. And that matters particularly if you're from a country like China, which already has an extra long EB-5 wait time. If you can get a green card based on being an international executive transferring from one branch of your company to the United States, we can cut the processing time down by 18 months. And instead of getting a conditional green card, you can get a full-fledged green card that's valid for the rest of your life.
So I'm a proud American, and I am not going anywhere, but let's just say you wanted to take me to Canada.
Right.
What is their rules? Because I hear they're more lax than we are in regards to immigration issues.
I don't know. I don't practice Canadian law. I have heard the same thing, and I know that they are vying with Silicon Valley to attract startup founders as well.
Well, so they're competing.
They're competing.
Good for them.
So Congress, we need to change our immigration laws so that we can keep this talent coming to America.
I mean, why shouldn't talent flock here? And the world's flat. You can also be here, but you can be other places in the world. And also, international entrepreneurial rule.
Oh, this is very exciting.
Yeah, so what's going on there?
Okay, so this is a brand new proposal that's a regulation, and it would allow startup founders to be able to have parole in the United States, which is an immigration status. It's not a visa, but if the founder has received $100,000 in government grants or $345,000 from U.S. investors like Keiretsu Forum or other startup accelerators, then that founder, if this program goes through in the next few months before President Obama leaves office, this person would be eligible to stay in the U.S. for 2 years to develop their company and possibly extend their stay for another 3 years if they're successful.
Well, we're funding companies globally, and we, again, have 51 locations throughout the world. But here, let's just talk about here. We're funding 25 to 35 companies a year here in Northern California. I don't think we've ever checked on immigration status.
I think this should be a critical part of due diligence for every investor.
Yes, so we learn something every time we do the show. Yes, we do.
You don't want to give your money to somebody who could be deported.
Absolutely. We, in fact, for you viewers that are listening to this, Keiretsu Forum has a due diligence booklet. It's over 400 pages long. It's how we think, how we do due diligence. So next month, you'll see addendum on this, how to vet.
I'm happy to
how to vet,
for you.
Obviously, the status of a CEO that's pitching to us.
Because I think it's critical. And I know there are so many brilliant startup founders from all around the world who flock here, and some have been students at local universities, or they're here visiting, and they want to put their idea into action, and it's so hard for them sometimes. If they don't have capital, it's so hard to get valid immigration status.
Now, before the show, you said you'll be traveling India, and we've already teed you up to some of our chapter presidents over there. One of them is Denny in Bangalore.
Yes.
And so, fantastic individual. So what will be your hope when you're going to Bangalore? To talk to possibly people coming to America, or just to learn more? Or what's your reason for the trip?
Well, I've never been to India, so I'm thrilled to go and have that experience.
Organized chaos. And a good thing. Yes.
And I'm excited to learn more about it. There are so many Indian immigrants in the Silicon Valley who are so accomplished and so brilliant. I'll probably be in Bangalore and Mumbai giving seminars to investors and entrepreneurs who are interested in learning about moving to the U.S. and Silicon Valley in particular. And since this will be my first trip, I just hope to go with eyes open and absorb what I can. Well,
it's inspiring, it's chaotic, but it's very, very rewarding and educational. And we do have, obviously, a team that I think we've introduced you to in Mumbai.
Very talented.
Yes. So any questions about how we should interact in our companies we fund? How should we refer you opportunities? Or how does it work? How do we do business together?
That would be great. I mean, anytime you're doing due diligence and there's a question about the founder's immigration status, let me know. I can look into that. I specialize in creative problem solving legally to help people straighten this out.
So we'll pick on your husband for a moment, who is a software engineer at Google.
Yes.
How does Google feel about, obviously, their great talent pool there? Yeah. They have to protect those, obviously, colleagues from India or China, from around the world. How do they do it?
Well, I don't represent Google, but I know they have a huge immigration team working on their staff, and they sponsor people for visas and green cards all the time. They have a lot of people on O's for extraordinary ability. These are the people who are brilliant at the very top of their field in the world.
So we hope today's show gave you some valuable insight. Sophie, how do they get a hold of you? Just email you?
Sure. Well, I have a website. It's alcornimmigrationlaw.com, and our phone number and email are on there. And also I have a lot of my own YouTube videos.
Right.
Like you do.
And I'm very proud. 60% of our leadership throughout the world at Keiretsu is women, so I like to have women guests. Also, if you received intrigue or inspiration from this program, please look at Keiretsu Forum Presents on YouTube. I think this is our 10th program, and if you have content that you like to share on Keiretsu Forum or Keiretsu Forum Presents, please email us. So thank you so much for watching.